Her millionaire boss little girl called her husband daddy at their anniversary. Everything fell. But the little girl, she couldn't have been more than 5, looked between them with innocent confusion, her eyes a mirror of Daniel's. The same eyes Samantha had gazed into this morning while he kissed her and promised tonight would be special. What would you do if your entire reality shattered in public? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. The Bordeaux stained her white dress as the crystal shattered. Just like her marriage did the moment a child she'd never met called her husband daddy across Chicago's most exclusive restaurant. Samantha Reed froze, time suspended in that horrible instant. The entire restaurant went silent. Waiters stopped mid-stride. The sommelier's practiced smile vanished. And Daniel, her husband of 10 years, turned ghost white as the little girl wrapped her arms around his neck. Daddy, I missed you. 5 simple words that demolished a decade of trust. Behind the child stood Jonathan Kane, Samantha's boss, one of Chicago's wealthiest tech moguls, and apparently, the man who'd been hiding her husband's secret family. Jonathan's eyes locked with hers, revealing not just surprise, but something deeper, more calculating. Fear. The wine pooled around the broken stem of her glass, bleeding across pristine white tablecloth like the truth spilling into her perfect life. What would you do if your entire reality shattered in public? If the anniversary dinner meant to celebrate love became the stage for its destruction? Would you create a scene or maintain dignity while your heart collapsed? Because here's what most don't understand about betrayal. It doesn't just break your heart. It rewrites your past. Every anniversary, every late-night call, every business trip suddenly transforms into potential lies. Samantha, I can explain, Daniel whispered, his voice tight with panic. But the little girl, she couldn't have been more than 5, looked between them with innocent confusion, her eyes a mirror of Daniel's. The same eyes Samantha had gazed into this morning while he kissed her and promised tonight would be special. She grabbed her purse and stood, legs unsteady. Enjoy your dinner, she said, voice impossibly steady. It seems you have catching up to do. As she walked toward the exit, she felt Jonathan's gaze following her. Whatever connected these men wasn't just about infidelity. It was something darker, and she had unknowingly been standing in its shadow for years. The cab ride home felt like a funeral procession. Chicago's glittering skyline blurred through tears she refused to shed in public. The driver kept glancing in the rearview mirror, probably wondering why a woman in a wine-stained dress was alone on what should have been a celebration night. Samantha's phone vibrated continuously, Daniel's name flashing with increasing desperation. She silenced it, focusing instead on her reflection in the window. 34 years old, executive assistant to one of Chicago's most powerful men, and completely, utterly blind to what had been happening right in front of her. The doorman's sympathetic nod as she entered their high-rise told her she looked exactly how she felt, devastated. The elevator ride to the penthouse gave her 16 floors to decide her next move. By the time she unlocked their door, rage had replaced shock. Their apartment, once her sanctuary, now felt like an elaborate stage set where she performed the role of wife to a man who didn't exist. Wedding photos lined the hallway, documenting a relationship built on. What? Had anything been real? She grabbed the nearest frame, studying Daniel's face as he fed her wedding cake. The same face that hadn't flinched when a child called him daddy. The child looked exactly like him. Those same blue eyes. That dimple. This wasn't some new development. This was years of deception. She moved methodically through their home, searching for evidence she'd missed. In his office, the locked drawer of his desk surrendered to her determined hairpin. Inside, a second phone, a stack of photos, birthday cards signed with children's handwriting. And there, at the bottom, an envelope with her medical record from 5 years ago. From the fertility clinic they'd visited during those desperate months of trying to conceive. Why would he keep these hidden? The sound of keys in the door came 3 hours later. Daniel entered cautiously, like approaching a wounded animal. Don't call me that. She cut him off, sitting perfectly still on their sofa, the evidence arranged on the coffee table between them. Explain the photos. Explain the child. Explain why you have my private medical records hidden in your locked drawer. Daniel's shoulders slumped. For the first time, he looked older than his 36 years. Her name is Ellie, he began, voice hollow. She's 5. And Jonathan? My boss. How long have you two known each other? Daniel's eyes widened slightly, the tell he'd always had when caught in a lie. We've met at company functions. Stop lying. The photos went flying across the room. I saw his face tonight. He knows you. He's known you a long time. Daniel's phone lit up on the table, Jonathan's name appearing on the screen. Not for the first time, according to the call history she'd scrolled through. How long have you two known each other? She demanded. His answer changed everything. Since before I met you. What does that mean? Samantha stood, needing the physical advantage of height. Since before you met me? Daniel paced the living room, keeping the coffee table between them like a shield. Jonathan and I met in college. We were business partners of sorts. Of sorts, she repeated. And this partnership included you marrying his executive assistant? Was that convenient timing, Daniel, or was it the point? His silence confirmed her worst suspicions. Did you ever love me at all? Her voice cracked despite her determination to remain cold. Yes. He reached for her, but she stepped back. That wasn't fake. I fell in love with you. That's why this got so complicated. Complicated? She laughed, the sound sharp and foreign. Is that what we're calling having a secret child with another woman while married to me? While I was going through fertility treatments that failed again and again. Daniel's face contorted. It's not what you think. Then explain it. All of it. Starting with the little girl. Ellie is my daughter, biologically, but Jonathan has raised her since birth. And her mother? Daniel looked away. A surrogate. The word hit Samantha like a physical blow. While she'd been injecting hormones, enduring procedures, crying monthly over negative pregnancy tests, they'd been, what? Creating a child through other means? Who is she? The surrogate. Her name doesn't matter. It matters to me. Samantha grabbed the nearest object, a crystal paperweight from their anniversary 2 years ago, and hurled it against the wall where it left a dent before falling to the carpet. Daniel flinched. Melissa Davidson. She was a graduate student who needed money. Samantha steadied herself against the back of the sofa. And Jonathan? Why is he raising your child? It's complicated. Stop saying that. It was a business arrangement. At first, Daniel's voice dropped. Jonathan wanted a child, but couldn't have one. He knew about our fertility struggles. Samantha's mind raced ahead, connecting dots. So you what? Donated sperm to your old college buddy while your wife was desperately trying to conceive? That's your explanation. Daniel's hesitation told her there was more, something worse. Samantha, there's something you need to know about the fertility clinic we used, about Jonathan's connection to it. The pieces suddenly aligned in her mind. The clinic was acquired by Kane Technologies 3 years into our treatment. I handled the paperwork. Her blood ran cold. That wasn't coincidence, was it? Before Daniel could answer, his phone buzzed again. Jonathan, a third time. She grabbed it before Daniel could react and answered on speaker. She knows Jonathan. Game over. Silence then. Samantha, don't leave your apartment. We need to talk. All 3 of us. I'm done with both of you, she spat. You don't understand what's at stake. Jonathan's voice carried an urgency she'd never heard before. This isn't just about Ellie. What does that mean? Another pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't let Daniel leave. The call ended. Daniel stood frozen, panic evident in his posture. What does he mean? Not just about Ellie, she demanded. Daniel sank onto the sofa, head in his hands. There's so much you don't know. Samantha arrived at Kane Technologies headquarters at 7:15 a.m., wearing yesterday's wine-stained dress like battle armor. The stain had dried to a dull burgundy, a visual reminder of the moment her life imploded. After a sleepless night of Daniel's partial confessions and Jonathan's no-show, she decided to take control. If the mountain wouldn't come to her, she would storm the castle herself. She bypassed the main reception desk with her executive access card. The early hour meant skeleton staff, perfect for confronting a man who clearly had secrets to protect. Jonathan's corner office stood at the end of a long corridor of glass and steel. The transparency was ironic, considering the opacity of his personal life. Through the glass walls, she could see him already at his desk, tie loosened, looking like he hadn't slept either. He glanced up as she entered without knocking, his expression shifting from surprise to resignation. "You were supposed to wait at your apartment, and you were supposed to show up last night." She closed the door behind her. "After 10 years as your assistant, I think I've earned some answers." The glass walls, once a symbol of transparency, now seemed like the perfect metaphor for illusions masquerading as truth. "Sit down, Samantha. I'll stand." Jonathan rubbed his temples. "What did Daniel tell you?" "That Ellie is his biological daughter. That you've raised her since birth. That you two have known each other since college and somehow orchestrated my hiring, my marriage, and God knows what else." She stepped closer to his desk. "What I don't know is why." He studied her face. "Did he tell you about the surrogate?" "Melissa Davidson, graduate student." "What about her? Did he tell you where the egg came from?" Something in his tone made her stomach drop. "What are you saying?" Jonathan opened his desk drawer and removed a file. 5 years ago, while you were undergoing fertility treatments at Lakeside Reproductive Center, certain protocols were bypassed. Eggs were harvested without proper authorization. The room seemed to tilt. "My eggs?" "Yes. You stole my eggs?" Her voice rose dangerously. "Not personally, no, but the clinic was already under acquisition by my company. There were doctors who were willing to expedite certain processes." Samantha gripped the edge of his desk to steady herself. "Are you telling me that little girl is biologically yours?" "Yes." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Samantha sank into the chair across from him, legs no longer able to support her. "That's not possible. The treatments failed. Every single one. The treatments with Daniel failed. But the harvested eggs were viable. So you just took them, used them, created a child without my knowledge or consent." Jonathan leaned forward. "It's more complicated than that. Stop saying that." The same phrase Daniel had repeated. "A child exists, my biological child, that I knew nothing about for 5 years. How is that complicated? It's theft. It's fraud. It's the tip of the iceberg." Jonathan cut in. "Daniel didn't tell you everything. The little girl, Ellie, she's not just his daughter." He looked up, eyes meeting hers. "She's yours too." "That's not possible." Samantha's voice sounded distant, even to her own ears. "I would know if I had a child. Biologically speaking, you do." Jonathan slid the file across his desk. "Your eggs. Daniel's sperm. Melissa Davidson's womb." Samantha's hands trembled as she opened the folder. Inside were medical records, her records with dates, procedure codes, and lab results she'd never seen before. "These were taken during my fertility treatments?" "Yes." Standard procedure is to harvest multiple eggs during each cycle. What isn't standard is using them without consent. Rain lashed against the office windows, nature's fury matching the storm brewing inside her as pages of medical documents confirmed what should have been impossible. "Why?" The question emerged as barely a whisper. "Why my eggs specifically? Why my husband?" Jonathan's eyes held something like regret. "Because you were perfect. Young, healthy, exceptional genetic markers, and most importantly, desperate enough not to question discrepancies. So, I was just inventory to you? A convenient source of genetic material? And Daniel, was our entire marriage arranged for this purpose?" Lightning flashed outside, illuminating Jonathan's face in harsh white light. For a moment, he looked older, wearier. "Not initially, but when we discovered your compatibility issues with Daniel, opportunities presented themselves." "Opportunities." She spat the word. "You mean my desperation to have a child?" "Yes." The clinical detachment in his voice sparked something beyond rage in Samantha's chest, a cold, calculating anger that cleared her mind. "Show me proof she's mine." Jonathan turned his computer monitor toward her and pulled up a file. DNA comparison charts appeared on screen. Her genetic profile matched against Ellie's. I had this done when I first suspected what had happened. The match is undeniable. Samantha stared at the evidence of her biological connection to a child she'd never held, never comforted, never even known existed. Does she know? Does Ellie know I'm her? She couldn't say the word. No, she believes her mother died in childbirth. A convenient fiction. Convenient for whom? Samantha's voice hardened. And why are you raising her instead of Daniel? Why the elaborate charade? Jonathan hesitated. That's where things get complicated. I'm beginning to hate that word. He almost smiled. Daniel wasn't supposed to maintain contact with Ellie. That wasn't part of our agreement. He was paid well to provide genetic material and walk away. But he didn't walk away. No, he developed attachments, started visiting her, became the fun uncle who spoiled her. Eventually, she figured out he was her father based on his visits and comments. And last night was the first time she saw us together, Samantha realized. She had no idea her daddy had a wife. Correct. What about me? Where do I fit in this twisted plan? Jonathan's expression changed, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. You were never supposed to know. The original agreement was simple. Daniel would receive significant compensation for providing genetic material to help me have a child. Your involvement was an unforeseen complication added by the doctor. I don't believe you, Samantha said flatly. The DNA test results remained on screen, the match undeniable. I didn't know they used your eggs until after Ellie was born, Jonathan said, voice breaking slightly. But Daniel knew. He always knew. The coffee shop hummed with mid-morning customers. Business meetings, friends catching up, students with laptops, ordinary people living ordinary lives. Samantha envied them. Across the table sat Melissa Davidson, the woman who had carried and delivered Samantha's biological child without her knowledge or consent. 5 years later, she looked nothing like the desperate graduate student Jonathan had described. Designer clothes, expensive haircut, diamond earrings. Thank you for meeting me, Samantha said, hands wrapped around her untouched latte. Melissa tilted her head, studying Samantha with uncomfortable familiarity. I've wondered for years what you were like. Daniel showed me photos, but that's not the same as meeting in person. The casual mention of her husband sharing photos made Samantha's stomach clench. Daniel talked about me? All the time. Melissa stirred her tea. He said you were brilliant, but fragile. That learning about Ellie would destroy you. Steam rose between them, like the hazy barrier between Samantha's former life and this new reality where strangers knew more about her bloodline than she did. Were you aware? Samantha forced herself to ask the question that had kept her awake. Did you know the eggs you carried were harvested without consent? Melissa's expression shifted. Not at first. I was told it was a standard surrogacy arrangement. Anonymous donor egg, Daniel's sperm, carrying for a wealthy client who couldn't have children. Jonathan, yes, but things got complicated. There was that word again. Daniel visited often during the pregnancy. He was attentive, brought me gifts, took me to appointments when Jonathan was traveling. How considerate of my husband, Samantha said flatly. We became close, very close. Melissa's meaning was unmistakable. About 6 months in, after we'd started seeing each other, he told me the truth about where the eggs came from. About you. And you were okay with that? With carrying a child created from stolen genetic material? Melissa looked down. By then I was in love with him. And pregnant. What was I supposed to do? The right thing? The legal thing? The ethical thing? Samantha's voice remained low but intense. It wasn't that simple. Jonathan had paid for my graduate school. He owned the apartment I lived in. The contract I signed had clauses that would have ruined me. So, you continued the pregnancy, delivered my biological child, and then what? Stayed involved with my husband while I remained completely unaware. Melissa glanced around nervously. Daniel promised we'd be together eventually. He said the plan was for you to discover everything about Jonathan's business practices. Once you found out, you'd leave both of them in disgust. That would clear the path for us. For you and Daniel to be together? With my child, the betrayal compounded with each revelation. With Ellie, yes. Daniel wanted to be a full-time father. He resented Jonathan controlling his access. And where exactly does Jonathan fit in all this? Why would he orchestrate such an elaborate scheme just to have a child? Melissa's eyes darted nervously again. She leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper. It wasn't just one child. Ellie was the first, but there were others. Others. Samantha felt her blood run cold. Other surrogates. Other eggs. An entire program hidden within legitimate fertility treatments. Jonathan has specific ideas about genetics and legacy. Are you saying he stole eggs from multiple women? Not stole. Repurposed was the term he used. Melissa checked her watch anxiously. I've said too much already. He still has too much power over my life. Wait, Samantha reached for her arm. How many others are there for my eggs? Melissa hesitated at the edge of her seat. 4. Ellie has 4 half-siblings. The hotel corridor stretched before Samantha. Identical doors in perfect symmetry. Room 1542, the same suite where she and Daniel had spent their wedding night 10 years ago. He'd suggested meeting here, not realizing how perfectly symbolic it was to end their marriage where it began. She'd changed the locks to their apartment within hours of learning the truth. Her knock was in. "Thank you for coming," he said, stepping back to let her enter. The hotel suite's opulence felt obscene now. Gold fixtures and premium sheets, witnessing the dismantling of promises made a decade ago on identical pillows. "I'm not here for reconciliation," she said immediately. "I'm here for the complete truth. Everything, Daniel. No more it's complicated." He nodded, gesturing toward the sitting area where a bottle of scotch sat half-empty beside a tumbler. "I've met with Melissa," Samantha said, remaining standing. "And with Jonathan. I know about Ellie being biologically mine. I know about your affair during the surrogacy. I know about the egg harvesting without consent." Daniel sank onto the couch. "Then you know everything." "No, I know facts. What I don't know is why. Why did you agree to this scheme? Why marry me if you just wanted my eggs? Why stay married to me for years afterward?" His hands trembled slightly as he poured another drink. "It didn't start out as a scheme. Jonathan and I knew each other from college. He was already wealthy, already powerful. He approached me about being a sperm donor. Simple transaction, good money. I agreed, and then he introduced me to you at that charity gala. Said you were his new assistant, that we'd be perfect together." Daniel looked up. "I swear, Samantha, falling in love with you wasn't part of any plan. That was real. Yet you continued with the arrangement after we married. Jonathan held financial leverage over me. College debts, a failed business venture he'd backed. When our fertility treatments weren't working, he suggested a backup plan, using a surrogate with my sperm and my eggs. Without telling me, Daniel winced. The doctor suggested it, said it would increase chances of success. Jonathan pushed for it, and I was weak. I told myself it was creating our child, just through different means. A child you never intended for me to know about. Initially, yes." He drained his glass. "But then Ellie was born. I saw her, this perfect little being that was part you, part me, and everything changed. I started visiting. Jonathan allowed it, thinking it would keep me compliant. But I fell in love with her. Started imagining a life where we could be a family, you, me, Ellie, while sleeping with her surrogate mother." His face flushed with shame. Melissa was there. She understood everything. You were becoming more distant with each failed treatment. She was convenient. The clinical description of his affair made Samantha's skin crawl. "And the other children?" Melissa mentioned 4 more using my eggs. Daniel's head snapped up, genuine shock on his face. "What? You didn't know?" "No. God, no. Just Ellie. That's all I knew about." Samantha studied him, looking for signs of deception. For once, he seemed genuinely horrified. "I need to find them," she said. "All of them. Jonathan will never allow that. Those children are his insurance policy." "Against what?" Daniel stood, moving toward her with sudden urgency. His hands gripped her shoulders, his face inches from hers. "Listen to me, Samantha. Jonathan isn't just some eccentric billionaire with control issues. The fertility clinic, the genetic sampling, the children, it's all part of something bigger. Something he calls legacy planning." The intensity in his eyes made her pull back slightly. What does that mean? It means Daniel's phone chimed with an incoming text. He glanced at it, face draining of color. What is it? She demanded. He showed her the screen, a message from Jonathan. I know she's with you. Remember our agreement. One word about the program, and everything burns. What agreement? What program? Samantha insisted. Daniel looked up, genuine fear in his eyes. The one that doesn't just involve eggs and sperm. The one that made him choose you specifically. Your genetic markers aren't just rare, Samantha. According to Jonathan's research, they're unique, valuable beyond measure. Samantha drove through Chicago's night-slicked streets, Daniel's revelations echoing in her mind. According to him, Jonathan's interest in her genetic material went beyond simple surrogacy. It involved research into longevity genes, inherited intelligence markers, and disease resistance. Your family history shows no cancer for 5 generations, Daniel had explained. No heart disease, no neurodegenerative conditions. Jonathan believes your genetic line holds keys to extending human lifespan. It sounded like science fiction, the kind of bizarre justification a man might invent to explain unconscionable actions. Yet the text for Jonathan had shown real panic at the thought of Daniel revealing the program. Her apartment felt smaller now, the walls closer, the ceiling lower. The space hadn't changed, but she had, and now her carefully constructed world couldn't contain what she'd become. She avoided the bedroom, too many memories of Daniel there, and instead curled on the sofa, laptop open, researching Jonathan's public research investments. Kane Technologies had quietly acquired 7 fertility clinics in the past decade, along with biotech startups focused on genetic mapping and cellular regeneration. The corporate language masked the reality. Jonathan was building a genetic empire using stolen DNA. Her phone rang. Daniel again. The 5th call since she'd left him at the hotel. She silenced it, unwilling to hear more justifications or warnings. What kept her awake wasn't just the violation or the betrayal. It was Ellie, a child with her eyes, her genes, her biological legacy, growing up without knowing her, being raised by a man who viewed genetics as commodities. Around 3 a.m., she finally admitted to herself what she'd been avoiding. Despite everything, she wanted to know her daughter. Not just see her from a distance, but truly know her. What made her laugh, what she feared, what she dreamed about. When morning light filtered through the blinds, Samantha made her decision. She showered, dressed professionally, and prepared to confront Jonathan again, this time with demands rather than questions. As she opened her front door, an envelope lay on the welcome mat. Inside was a handwritten letter on Jonathan's personal stationery. Samantha, I understand your anger and sense of violation. What was done to you was unconscionable. And while I wasn't initially aware of the unauthorized use of your genetic material, I benefited from it and must accept responsibility. Ellie asks about you. She saw your photo in my office and wanted to know who the pretty lady was that works with me. I told her you were someone special. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm asking for consideration of what's best for Ellie moving forward. She's an innocent in all this. Whatever you decide about legal action against me or the clinic, please consider that she believes her biological mother is deceased. I'll answer any questions you have. I'll provide access to all records. I'll even facilitate a relationship between you and Ellie if that's what you decide is best. But I ask one thing. Don't punish her for the sins of the adults who failed you. If you're willing to talk, I'll be at my home tonight. Come alone. Daniel is not welcome, as his promises to you and to me have proven equally worthless. Jonathan, the last line struck her most. Her answer to this invitation would change everything. She could continue running from this nightmare, or step directly into its center and reclaim what was taken from her. By evening, she'd made her choice. Jonathan's lakeside mansion gleamed like a lighthouse, promising safe harbor. But as Samantha stepped inside, she wondered which was more dangerous, the storm behind her or the man waiting within glass walls. The security system disarmed automatically as she approached the door, her face already programmed for access. Another violation that hadn't required her consent. Jonathan stood in the foyer, more casual than she'd ever seen him. No tie, shirt sleeves rolled up, barefoot on marble floors. He looked almost human. "Thank you for coming," he said, leading her through the house toward the lake-facing windows. "Ellie's asleep upstairs. Her nanny is with her. I didn't come to see her. Not yet." Samantha remained standing despite his gesture towards sofa. "I came for answers. Real ones this time." Thunder crashed over Lake Michigan, nature's percussion accompanying the tension between them. "Where would you like to begin?" he asked. "The other children. The ones created with my eggs." Jonathan nodded, moving to a wall panel that transformed into a screen with his touch. "4 children, ages 3 to 5. All from your harvested eggs, fertilized with carefully selected donor sperm based on genetic compatibility markers." Images appeared, 2 boys, 2 girls, all with something of her in their features. The oldest, a boy with her chin and jawline. Twin girls with her eyes. The youngest boy with her nose and mouth. Where are they? With selected families. Exceptional people who believe they used anonymous donor eggs from our clinic. Selected by you. Yes. Monitored regularly for developmental markers and health outcomes. The clinical description of children, her children, made her stomach turn. This is illegal, immoral, monstrous. It's research that could change human history. Jonathan's voice remained calm. Your genetic line carries extraordinary markers for intelligence, longevity, and disease resistance. Combined with selected traits from donor males, these children represent potentially groundbreaking advances in human potential. They're not lab rats. They're people. My biological children. Yes, and they're thriving, loved by their families, receiving the best of everything. Samantha finally sank onto the sofa, the weight of it all becoming too much to bear standing. "Show me more. Everything." For the next hour, Jonathan revealed his operation. The careful tracking of the children's development, health records, cognitive testing. All without the knowledge of the families raising them. And Daniel? What was his role in all this beyond providing sperm for Ellie? Jonathan's expression darkened. "Daniel was my entry point to you. Once I realized the potential of your genetic profile, I needed access. He provided it. By marrying me. Initially, just by introducing us. The marriage was his idea. He saw the financial potential in aligning himself with my interests. He's not the devoted husband you believed him to be. And you're showing me this evidence out of the goodness of your heart. I'm showing you because you deserve the truth." Jonathan pulled up a video file. This was recorded 3 years ago when the program was fully operational. The footage showed Daniel in this very room, shaking hands with Jonathan. The latest harvest yielded 14 viable eggs. A doctor's voice reported off camera. "Excellent," Daniel responded. "The clinic payment structure we discussed. 30% of proceeds to you as the referring physician," Jonathan confirmed. "Assuming quality remains high. She never suspects a thing," Daniel assured him. "Too focused on our treatments to notice the extra procedures." Samantha's hand flew to her mouth, nausea rising as she watched her husband discuss her body like a resource to be mined. When the video ended, she looked up to find Jonathan watching her with an unreadable expression. "Why show me this? What do you gain? Perhaps I'm not the only monster in this story," he said quietly. The storm intensified, rain lashing against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Jonathan's lakeside mansion. Lightning illuminated the water in staccato flashes, matching the fragmented thoughts racing through Samantha's mind. "I want to meet them," she said finally. "All of them. Every child created from my eggs." Jonathan poured 2 glasses of wine, offering one to her. "That complicates things. The families believe they used anonymous donors. I don't care what they believe. Those children exist because of a crime committed against me. And revealing the truth could devastate 5 families, 5 children." He sat across from her. "Is that what you want?" The question hung between them. What did she want? Revenge? Justice? Connection? "I want what was stolen from me," she said finally. "The chance to know my biological children. I can arrange monitored visits with Ellie. The others would require careful handling." Samantha sipped the wine, buying time to think. Jonathan had revealed Daniel's betrayal, but his own role remained murky. Was this confession genuine remorse or strategic manipulation? "Why did you choose me?" she asked suddenly. "There must be thousands of women with exceptional genetic markers. Why build this elaborate scheme around me specifically?" Something shifted in Jonathan's expression, a crack in the controlled facade. "I didn't start with you. You were the breakthrough." He set down his glass. "For years, I funded research into genetic markers for exceptional longevity. My mother died at 42 from early-onset Alzheimer's. My father at 50 from heart disease. I was consumed with breaking that pattern. So this was personal. Everything meaningful is personal, Samantha." He leaned forward. "When your genetic profile came across my desk, part of a standard employment screening, our research team identified markers they'd never seen clustered together. Extraordinary disease resistance, cognitive efficiency, cellular repair capabilities. You were the key we'd been searching for. So you orchestrated my entire life from that moment. My job, my marriage, my fertility treatments. Yes, no denial, no justification. Simple admission. The honesty, however terrible, was almost refreshing after years of deception. And Ellie? Why keep her closest to you? She was the proof of concept. The first child with your genetic advantages, combined with carefully selected complementary markers." His voice softened, but she became more than that. She became everything. The vulnerability in his admission struck Samantha unexpectedly. This man, this calculating, ruthless man, genuinely loved her daughter. Their daughter. Another lightning flash illuminated the room, and with it came clarity. "I want joint custody of Ellie," she said, her voice steady. "Legal recognition as her mother. And I want detailed information on every other child created with my genetic material. And in exchange, I don't expose your program. I don't file criminal charges. I don't destroy everything you've built." Jonathan studied her, perhaps seeing her clearly for the first time, not as genetic material to be harvested, but as a force equal to his own. "You've changed," he observed. "Having everything you believed stripped away will do that." She set down her glass and stood. "I'm not the same woman who walked into that restaurant yesterday. That woman trusted. That woman believed in love and loyalty. That woman is gone." He rose to meet her, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "And who are you now? Someone who understands power. Someone who won't be used again." The electricity between them shifted, anger and betrayal transforming into something unexpected. Recognition, respect, attraction born not from manipulation, but from seeing each other's true nature for the first time. She moved first, surprising herself as much as him. Her hand against his chest, feeling his heartbeat accelerate. "I want to see her room, where my daughter sleeps." His breath caught. Now. As he led her upstairs, Samantha felt a strange power in her surrender. Not to him, but to the truth of who she had become. Whatever happened next would be on her terms, her choice, her agency restored through the very chaos that had tried to strip it from her. For the first time since crystal shattered against restaurant floor, she felt completely certain of her next move. Ellie's bedroom looked like it belonged in a magazine. Soft pink walls, hand-painted butterflies dancing across the ceiling, shelves lined with books and carefully arranged toys. A child raised with every advantage money could buy. Samantha moved quietly, afraid to wake the little girl sleeping beneath a canopy bed. In the dim glow of a butterfly nightlight, she could see her own features reflected in the child's face. The curve of her cheek, the sweep of her eyelashes. "She has nightmares sometimes," Jonathan whispered, standing at the doorway. "About her mother. The mother she believes is dead," Samantha said, unable to keep the edge from her voice. "I never told her that specifically. I said her mother couldn't be with her. She filled in the blanks herself." Samantha touched a framed photo on the nightstand. Ellie and Jonathan at the beach, both smiling. The girl looked happy, loved. "What will you tell her about me?" "The truth. Age-appropriate versions of it, but the truth. And when Daniel comes to visit," Jonathan's jaw tightened. "That's another conversation." They slipped out, closing the door gently behind them. In the hallway, the strange intimacy of co-parenting settled between them. a connection neither had anticipated 24 hours ago. "I have conditions," Jonathan said, leading her back downstairs. "Legal agreements to protect Ellie's interests in the program. I have conditions too." Samantha stopped at the bottom of the stairs, including full disclosure about what you've done with my genetic material beyond these 5 children. "There's nothing else. Don't lie to me. Not now." His hesitation confirmed her suspicion. "There's research, cellular applications, regenerative medicine. Nothing invasive, nothing. Nothing I consented to." She stepped closer, the anger she'd suppressed rising again. "You had no right." "No, I didn't." His admission was quiet, unexpected, but the potential benefits to humanity. Save the greater good speech. "I'm not interested." Lightning flashed, illuminating the tension between them. Somewhere in the past 24 hours, the power dynamic had shifted. He was no longer merely her boss, the untouchable billionaire. He was a man who had wronged her, who needed her silence as much as she needed his cooperation. "I want everything," she said. "Every record, every sample, every application of my genetic material. And I want oversight moving forward. That would make you a partner in the research." "Yes, equal partner." Jonathan studied her, reassessing. The executive assistant who had efficiently managed his calendar for a decade was gone, replaced by a woman who understood leverage. "And Daniel?" he asked. "That's my business, not yours." She moved toward the wall of windows overlooking the churning lake. The storm matched her internal landscape. Violent, unpredictable, clearing the air. "I'll need time with Ellie," she said, softer now, "to build trust before we explain who I am." "Of course. And I'll need access to information about the other children. Not to disrupt their lives, but to know them somehow." Jonathan came to stand beside her, both watching the storm rage over the water. "When did you realize," she asked, "that Daniel and I couldn't conceive naturally?" "Early genetic screening suggested incompatibility. It's why I introduced you. You play God with our lives." "Yes." The simple admission hung between them as lightning illuminated the lake once more. 2 opposing forces, 2 worlds colliding, creating something neither had anticipated. The conference room at Kane Technologies buzzed with nervous energy as Samantha arranged documents on a gleaming table. 3 days had passed since the discovery that had shattered her life. 3 days of legal consultations, medical research, and Jonathan entered last, nodding to the assembled team of attorneys and executives. No one questioned why his executive assistant was sitting at the head of the table rather than taking notes beside him. "Thank you all for coming," Samantha began, her voice steady. "Today we're discussing the formation of a new division within Kane Technologies, the Genetic Ethics and Oversight Foundation." Confusion rippled through the room. This wasn't on anyone's agenda except Jonathan's and hers. "Ms. Reed will be heading this initiative," Jonathan added, taking his seat, "with full autonomy and board-level authority." The company's general counsel leaned forward. "Mr. Kane, perhaps we should discuss this privately before." "The decision is made." Jonathan cut him off. "Ms. Reed has unique qualifications for this position." Samantha met the questioning stares with cool professionalism. None of these people knew what had happened. None understood that this wasn't a promotion, but a reckoning. "The Foundation will establish ethical guidelines for all genetic research conducted by Kane Technologies subsidiaries," she continued, distributing folders, "particularly focusing on consent protocols and long-term monitoring of genetic applications." For the next hour, she outlined her vision, a revolutionary approach to genetic research oversight, patient advocacy, and ethical review. The attorneys exchanged worried glances as they realized how many current practices would fall short of these new standards. "This will set us back years," the research director objected. Our competitors will eventually face the same scrutiny," Jonathan interrupted. "We're getting ahead of it." When the meeting ended, executives filed out with shell-shocked expressions, leaving Samantha and Jonathan alone in the conference room. "They think you've lost your mind," she said quietly. "Perhaps I have." He closed his folder. "You realize this foundation gives you the power to shut down my life's work. That's the point." yet you're not destroying it. You're reforming it. He studied her with genuine curiosity. What? Samantha gathered her notes, considering the question. She could have gone to the authorities, exposed everything. Instead, she'd chosen this path, one that kept her connected to Ellie while transforming Jonathan's empire from within. Because burning it all down doesn't help those children. It doesn't advance the research that might help others. She met his gaze directly, and it doesn't give me back what was taken. And this does. This gives me purpose, control, a chance to prevent what happened to me from happening to anyone else. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, catching the edge of her wedding ring, still on her finger despite everything. She'd need to address that soon. I met with Daniel yesterday, she said, watching Jonathan's expression harden. He's agreed to step back from Ellie's life temporarily until we establish a stable routine. He won't honor that agreement. He will if he wants to avoid prison. She closed her laptop with finality. I have enough evidence to ensure that. Jonathan leaned against the conference table, studying her with something like admiration. When this started, I thought I understood exactly who you were, he said quietly. I was wrong. We all were. She stood, gathering her materials. I have a meeting with Ellie's therapist in an hour. We're discussing the best approach to introduce me into her life. As her mother, as someone who loves her. The rest will come with time. As she walked toward the door, he called after her, Samantha, are we building something here, or just managing the destruction? She paused, hand on the doorknob. Ask me again in a year. The hospital corridor stretched before Samantha like an accusation. 2 weeks of careful planning. Meetings with child psychologists, gradual introductions to Ellie as Daddy's special friend from work, legal documents establishing her rights, all threatened by a single phone call at midnight. Daniel had been in an accident, or so the hospital claimed. She found him in the emergency department, sitting on a gurney with his arm bandaged, a cut above his eye. What happened? She asked, maintaining distance. I was followed from my hotel. 2 men. They said it was a warning. His eyes darted around the busy ER. They mentioned the program. Convenient timing, she noted coolly, just as custody arrangements are being finalized. Daniel looked genuinely offended. You think I'd do this to myself? Break my own arm? I think you'd do anything to maintain control. A doctor approached with discharge papers, eyeing them curiously as tension crackled between them. Ms. Reed, the doctor's recognition surprised her. We met at the Kane Foundation Gala last year. I didn't realize you and Mr. Reed were. We're not anymore, Samantha corrected. I'm just his emergency contact. Daniel winced, though whether from the correction or his injury wasn't clear. Once alone again, he leaned closer. I'm telling you, Samantha, something bigger is happening. These weren't random thugs. They knew about the program, about you, about Ellie. Jonathan wouldn't risk exposure by hiring attackers. Not Jonathan. Someone else. Someone who wants the research. He gripped her hand suddenly. The same people who've been watching your apartment. An icy chill ran through her. What are you talking about? Black SUV, tinted windows. It's been parked across from your building 3 nights this week. She'd noticed that vehicle, but assumed it was Jonathan's security team, keeping tabs on her movements despite their new arrangement. Why should I believe anything you say? Daniel sighed, looking suddenly exhausted. Because despite everything, I never wanted you hurt. What happened? The fertility clinic, Ellie, all of it. It spiraled beyond what any of us intended. Save the revisionist history. You discussed harvesting my eggs while I was unconscious. I saw the videos, and I'll live with that shame forever. He met her eyes directly. But right now, there's a threat beyond Jonathan, beyond our failed marriage. Someone wants the research, the children, your children. A nurse interrupted, wheeling in a wheelchair for discharge protocol. As Daniel gathered his belongings, Samantha stepped back, reassessing everything. If he was telling the truth, all 5 children could be at risk. If he was lying, I'm staying at the Langham now, he said as the nurse helped him into the wheelchair. Room 1218. If you notice anything suspicious, call me. Please. She watched him being wheeled away, the man she'd once trusted above all others, now a stranger she couldn't even confidently hate. Outside the hospital, rain fell in sheets. Samantha paused under the awning, scanning the parking lot. A black SUV idled near the exit, windshield wipers beating a steady rhythm. She pulled out her phone and called Jonathan. "Is Ellie safe?" she asked without preamble. "Of course. What? Do you have security watching my apartment?" A pause. "No. We agreed I'd respect your privacy." The SUV's engine revved, headlights cutting through the rain. "I think we have a problem," she said, stepping back into the hospital as the vehicle pulled forward. "And I don't think it's Daniel this time." 3 months transformed everything. Spring bloomed across Chicago as Samantha settled into her new reality. Part-time mother to Ellie, executive director of the newly launched Genetic Ethics Foundation, and reluctant ally to Jonathan Kane. The foundation headquarters occupied the top floor of Kane Technologies, glass-walled offices symbolizing the transparency she demanded. Today, those offices hosted their first major event, a press conference announcing revolutionary new consent protocols for genetic research. "Ms. Reed will take your questions now," the PR director announced to the assembled journalists. Samantha approached the podium, scanning the crowd. In the back row sat Daniel, keeping his promise to maintain distance while supporting the foundation's work. Their divorce had finalized last month, quick, quiet, and surprisingly amicable once he accepted his limited role in Ellie's life. The Kane-Reed protocols represent a fundamental shift in genetic research ethics, she began. No more hidden clauses in consent forms. No more secondary use loopholes. Patients will maintain ownership of their genetic material, with clear pathways for withdrawal of consent. A reporter raised his hand. "Ms. Reed, some industry insiders claim these protocols will cripple research advancements. How do you respond?" Ethical research may move more slowly, but it moves forward with integrity. Speed without consent isn't progress, it's exploitation. From the side of the stage, Jonathan watched with an unreadable expression. Their relationship had evolved into something neither could have predicted. Not friendship, not romance, but a complex partnership built around Ellie and the foundation. The questions continued, mostly softball inquiries about implementation timelines and industry adoption. Then, "Ms. Reed, sources claim you have a personal stake in genetic ethics reform due to unauthorized use of your own genetic material by Kane Technologies. Can you confirm these allegations?" The room went silent. Jonathan stepped forward as if to intervene, but Samantha raised a hand, stopping him. "What happened to me is precisely why these protocols matter," she said calmly. "Yes, my genetic material was used without proper consent through a subsidiary clinic before Kane Technologies implemented our new standards. My experience informed these reforms, but they extend far beyond my personal situation." Murmurs rippled through the press corps. She just confirmed corporate malfeasance without explicitly accusing Kane Technologies, exactly as she and Jonathan had agreed if the question ever arose. "No further questions," the PR director announced hastily. Backstage, Jonathan waited, his face tense. "You handled that perfectly. Truth has its uses." She gathered her notes. Limited, controlled truth. "The board is concerned about potential lawsuits. The board approved our strategy. This gets ahead of any expose, positions us as reformers rather than villains." A small voice interrupted their conversation. "Mommy, you were amazing." Ellie ran toward them, her nanny following apologetically. The little girl had taken to calling Samantha Mommy within weeks of learning the truth, adapted with the resilience only children possess. Samantha knelt, embracing her daughter. "Were you watching from the green room like we discussed?" Ellie nodded earnestly. "You look like a superhero up there." Jonathan smiled at the interaction, the genuine affection between them. Whatever his original intentions, his love for Ellie was real, as was his growing respect for Samantha. "The foundation launch party starts in an hour," he reminded them. "Our financial backers are expecting both of us." Samantha stood, taking Ellie's hand. "Then let's not disappoint them. After all, we're changing the world together. For better or worse, that much was true." The foundation's 6-month anniversary celebration transformed Kane Technologies' rooftop garden into an elegant reception area. String lights twinkled above Chicago's skyline as donors, researchers, and advocates mingled in the evening air. Samantha moved through the crowd with practiced ease, having grown comfortable in her role as the foundation's public face. Her simple black dress and minimal jewelry projected exactly the image she wanted: serious, professional, focused on the work rather than the glamour. "Quite a turnout," Daniel commented, appearing at her elbow with 2 flutes of champagne. The research community is clearly taking notice. She accepted the glass but didn't drink. Their relationship had settled into a careful détente, professional respect with emotional distance. He'd honored the custody arrangement, seeing Ellie twice monthly under supervised conditions. "The pharmaceutical companies are watching too," she replied. "They're worried the protocols will spread to their industry." "As well they should be." He nodded toward the far side of the roof, where Jonathan was deep in conversation with a silver-haired woman. "Your co-parent seems to be enjoying himself. He's securing another 8-figure donation." "Of course he's enjoying himself." Daniel studied her face. "You've changed, you know. A year ago, you were organizing his calendar. Now you're changing medical ethics laws and co-parenting with him. A year ago, I didn't know I had a daughter, or that my husband and boss had conspired to steal my eggs." She kept her voice light despite the heavy words. "Change was necessary." "And the other children? Have you?" "That's not a conversation we're having, Daniel." She'd established strict boundaries around certain topics. The other 4 children were protected by a complex legal framework. She received updates on their well-being, but had agreed not to disrupt their families' lives. He nodded, accepting the rebuke. "Fair enough. I should circulate." Several potential donors asked specifically about the firefighter recovery program. The foundation had launched a rehabilitation initiative for injured emergency responders. Daniel's contribution, leveraging his former career connections. Whatever his flaws as a husband, his commitment to fellow firefighters seemed genuine. As he walked away, Jonathan approached, the silver-haired donor now chatting with others. "Margaret's foundation just committed $5 million, he said, satisfaction evident in his voice. "Specifically for the Genetic Privacy Initiative." "That's excellent news." Samantha gazed out at the skyline, the city lights reflecting in the lake beyond. "I never expected this to grow so quickly." "You underestimate yourself. Always have." He stood beside her at the railing, their shoulders nearly touching. "You've accomplished more in 6 months than most do in years." The compliment felt genuine, not manipulative as his praise once might have been. Their relationship had evolved into something neither could have predicted. Professional respect layered with the intimate connection of raising a child together. "I spoke with the board about the expansion proposal," he continued. "They've approved the international outreach program. Paris, London, Singapore, all launching next year, in full autonomy for each branch. As we discussed, you'll need to travel to establish the offices, of course." She turned to face him. "And Ellie, we'll work it out, as we have everything else." The easy confidence in his voice reflected their new reality. Co-parents, business partners, and something else undefined. 2 people who had moved from betrayal to a cautious alliance built on shared purpose. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. "A token of appreciation for everything you've built." He handed her a small velvet box. Inside lay a key. "The lake house," he explained. "It's been transferred to your name. No strings, no conditions. A place for you and Ellie, independent of me or the foundation." The gesture left her momentarily speechless. Not just the value of the property, but the symbolism. Freedom, security, recognition. "Thank you," she said finally, closing her hand around the key, "for understanding what matters most." His eyes held hers longer than necessary. "I'm still learning." 1 year after discovering her eggs had been stolen, her marriage had been orchestrated, and her boss had been manipulating her career, Samantha stood in her lake house kitchen watching Ellie arrange flowers in small vases. 1 for each table, the 6-year-old declared with authority. and Daddy Jonathan says the important people get the big arrangements. Samantha smiled, still adjusting to hearing Ellie distinguish between Daddy Jonathan and Daddy Daniel, her solution to having two fathers in her life. Children adapted with remarkable resilience. Everyone coming today is important, Samantha corrected gently. They're all helping children like you. Today marked the official launch of the Foundation's newest initiative, a program connecting genetically related children from donor situations with psychological support and optional contact when appropriate. A program inspired by the 4 other children created from Samantha's eggs. She hadn't met them yet. Their parents had been approached carefully, confidentially, offered the truth without pressure. 2 families had agreed to eventual contact. One remained undecided. One had moved abroad, beyond their reach for now. Baby steps, ethical ones. The doorbell rang, and Ellie raced to answer it. They're here. The first guests were arriving. Foundation board members, key donors, and program directors. The lake house, once Jonathan's private retreat, now served as both Samantha's home and an occasional venue for Foundation events. The place looks amazing, said Lauren, the child psychologist who'd helped integrate Samantha into Ellie's life. Hard to believe how much has changed in a year. Indeed. The woman who'd once shattered a wine glass in shock now hosted galas, testified before medical ethics committees, and ran an international foundation. The transformation went beyond career. It reached into her very identity. Jonathan arrived last, characteristically punctual rather than early or late. He carried a gift-wrap box that Ellie immediately identified as "for me" and raced to claim. "It's actually for both of you," he corrected, nodding to Samantha. Inside was a framed document, the official certification for the Ellie Kane-Reed Genetic Rights Act, recently passed in 3 states with more pending. Legislation ensuring patients maintained ownership of their genetic material and requiring explicit consent for each use. "It's official in Illinois as of this morning," Jonathan explained. The governor signed it. Samantha traced the frame's edge, emotion tightening her throat. "You named it after her." "We named it after her," he corrected. "It's your legislation. Your vision." Their eyes met over Ellie's head, a moment of perfect understanding. Whatever had driven them apart, whatever twisted path had brought them here, they created something meaningful together. Not just Ellie, but a legacy that would protect countless others. The afternoon unfolded with speeches, champagne toasts, and strategic discussions. Samantha moved through her role as hostess with natural grace. No longer the assistant, but the authority, respected, listened to, powerful in her own right. As sunset painted the lake in amber and gold, the guests gradually departed. Jonathan lingered, helping Ellie collect the flower vases while Samantha cleared away glasses. "There's something I've been wanting to discuss," he said when they were finally alone, Ellie upstairs changing for dinner. The research team in Singapore made a breakthrough with the regenerative application of your genetic markers. Her spine stiffened slightly. This remained sensitive territory. "The protocol you approved last year," he clarified quickly. "Fully consensual, fully documented. The cellular regeneration rate exceeds anything we've seen before. It could revolutionize treatment for degenerative diseases." She absorbed this, the complex emotions it triggered. Her genetic material, once stolen, now potentially saving lives with her full knowledge and permission. "I'd like to see the data," she said finally. "All of it, of course. You have complete access." Ellie bounded back downstairs, dressed for their dinner reservation. "Ready." As they prepared to leave, Jonathan hesitated at the door. "I've been thinking about our arrangement. The foundation is stable now. Ellie is thriving. Perhaps it's time to consider." "Jonathan," she interrupted gently, "one miracle at a time." He nodded, understanding what she meant. They'd rebuilt from shattered glass, transformed violation into purpose, betrayal into partnership. Some boundaries remained necessary. But as they walked toward the car, Ellie between them holding both their hands, Samantha recognized the truth. From the fragments of her broken life, she constructed something stronger than what had been destroyed, A family defined not by convention, but by choice, not by blood alone, but by the decision, every day, to build something that mattered. She'd never planned this path, but walking it now, she wouldn't change a single step.